This is the new Project 2 from Webdesign. This is a RapidWeaver project file that requires the Foundation Stack Suite from Joe Workman. This is essentially a long page that can be used in a conventional navigation system. In other words, a navigation bar at the top which has multiple pages, including submenus that could further be broken down into more submenus. And it has a series of pages here which are really just dummy pages, and the way you would use a project like this is to duplicate one of these pages, rename it, and then remove what you don't want, or to copy and paste the elements from this main page into your own page and then build up your own structure. The page is a very distinctive new design. It looks very current. It looks very 2016. Uses top bar at the top. It's been styled to add some additional underbars here to highlight it, and it's easy to change it from a sticky to a fixed bar, or to make it transparent if you want, to give it a totally different look. Down here we have some icons. These are font awesome icons, and they're set up using icon bar, which is very easy to use. In this case, they're set to open a drop down, a specific drop down for each one on hover. So as soon as you hover over it, opens up, and then we put the new Paddy button styler in here, and in this case, if we click on that, that then opens up a reveal, 100% reveal, and you can put your own characters in here and submit an email. Now, you obviously need to put your own email settings in there, but then you're good to go. Coming down here, we have some more stylish buttons, again using the new Paddy Butt styler for the Stacks button. And the new feature that's been added in this version is that it allows you to create versatile ghost buttons with a transparent background. You can even have semi-transparent, or set the transparency of the normal hover colors. You can set all states of it to be whatever color you want, basically. Moving on down, you'll see one of the design features carried throughout this, which are two different maximum widths. Just to break it up, it can look a little bit rigid and symmetrical when you have everything lined up along an imaginary line. So this just breaks it up, and I think it makes it into a more interesting layout. One of the big design features of this is the use of the S4S switcher stack. Now, this is a clever stack. It's a tab stack that will collapse into an accordion stack. And in this case, it's been set up with a nice transparent background that shows through the buttons. You can put whatever content you want in there. And then if you look at the way this collapses, I'll just open it up a little bit more there. Look at the way it collapses. It has this really elegant way of scrolling. And you can set these to be open or closed. And when they're closed, you have a very versatile and usable way of displaying a lot of information on a mobile device. So I'll just open that back up there. This is one of the layouts, and this is the sort of layout you might want to sort of cherry pick and put into a new page together with a slider or together with something else, and build it up as you're going. But here we have a layout that's just outlining your services or your product or whatever. But we have one of the widths here, and then a second width, and then when this will collapse in a slightly more interesting way, instead of going one on top of the other, this will now collapse to two parallel on top of a third one. So it just makes it a little bit more interesting, makes it look a little bit more different. Here we have the Foundation Orbit slider. It's been tweaked a bit with some CSS to put this nice elongated nav dot on here. And in this case there's some text, but it could be pictures, more text, buttons, up to you, to whatever you want to put in there. Here we have the switcher stack again. This is essentially the same thing, but it's just been rejigged a bit with some slightly bigger graphic and made to look slightly different in proportion. One extra thing we've added down there is another button, and this is pretty much the default button of the Paddy button styler. This has got a gradient. You can define a top color and a bottom color for each state, and it just looks different to the foundation button. And this works like the other one too. You know, it'll degrade down into an accordion. It will auto adjust for the height of the content, and it's very easy to use. Great way of putting a lot of information into a single page. I've used 4. It can be whatever number you want. Coming on down, we've got another variation on the sort of classic layout of 2 columns. So you might want to mix the 3 columns with the 2 columns, or a 1 column to build up the different kind of look you're after for each page. And then we have a pattern in here with an overlay. This goes edge to edge, and we're using the orbit slider again. This time it's set to auto display and cycle through these, and in this case we're just using 2 different side-by-side columns. You can have more, you can have less, but it's an effective way of using that small amount of space just to introduce some different concepts to the user, and to show them something that they might not find by exploring your site. And it draws attention to it as well. And then if we come down here, this is a 3-column layout, but it's using the foundation equalize. And what this means, if you're not familiar with that, is that it will always maintain the height of what's in these columns. One of the difficult things with putting things next to each other is once you alter the height of the content, one can appear longer than the other, and it can look a bit ragged and not particularly good. These 3 will always maintain the same height depending on the content in the center of these. And you can learn how to put a graphic on the top of them and add an additional button or something on the bottom, and if I click on one of those, they go off and they open up a reveal. On the bottom there's a pretty straightforward footer, again using icon bar. It's using the same system in there, and you can add these, you can subtract them, you can have whatever you want, of course. I'll just have a quick look at the file itself, but this is the sort of structure you have. But at the top of the page there's a series of notes inside our Paddy notes stack, and if we have a look at this one, for example, just click that, lets you read it. You can see there's a lot of notes and stuff in there. We could go on down to this one. Here's one on warehoused images, all sorts of help and assistance in there. There's a folder of warehoused images included as well. So there's a lot of documentation in there. The project's ready. If you have any questions, we'll be delighted to hear from you. Thanks.